So I once knew a man who would jokingly say that whatever relationship he was in, if it would end, it would feel like his liver was being ripped out. He was kidding. He was being dramatic for effect, and his relationships ended, and his liver seemed to stay intact. But much later, I found the book that described this phenomenon, and I want to pitch it to you because I think you should read it. I have read it more than once. I returned to it quite a few times, actually, in my life. It's called Projection and Recollection by Marie-Louise von Franz. She is, as you probably all know if you've been following my account long enough, my favorite Jungian. I quote from her books often. She's amazing. So what she says about projection is that it is psyche's oldest export. We smuggle our unowned stuff out into the world, we stamp it as objective, and then we call it fate. It's unconscious and it's unintentional. We don't actually know we're doing it until reality pushes back, and it does often push back, and it will push back hard. You challenge a projection and you'll feel the inner resistance because the heart wants what it wants, and what it wants is to park its cargo onto a person, a cause, a situation, a political idea. We're seeing it enough these days. But when the ego finally admits, oh, that's actually my stuff, not theirs, the problem is the depression can often follow. The energy is taken away because those projections we make are tangled up often with early life and autonomous complexes that have a will of their own. And so it's difficult. So when you couple a complex with projection, it isolates us. The world kind of becomes this private movie that confirms whatever story we've devised and think we're living in. Collectively, we can see this pretty clearly. You can see it in witch hunts. You can see it in savior myths. Positively, it gives us the energy to build cathedrals and create great art. And so that's a great thing. So how do you spot one in the wild, so to speak? How do you know that you're projecting? Well, her answer is the more subjective and emotionally charged it feels, whether it's towards a person, an idea, an institution, the more you feel, the more heat inside of you, well, it's a projection, and it's also outside of you, may land like a bomb, right? So it's no accident, actually, that the way it's often depicted is as an arrow, Cupid's dart. If any of you know the Bernini statue of Santa Teresa de Jesus, the famous Spanish mystic, she's being speared in her heart as well by the love of God. The evil eye is another great expression of this. So to be someone's screen can feel like being wrapped up in a warm blanket, but it can also feel like you're being torn to pieces. It really depends on the situation. Archetypally, she would say the projection is how the gods sneak back in. And the most familiar form it takes is falling in love. One of my favorite authors, besides von Franz, I have many, as you know, is Yalom. One of his books is called Love's Executioner. And he says famously, I hate to be love's executioner. He notes that the cure for longing is the longing itself. And he's not the only one to say this. There are quite a few mystical poets who say the same thing in other places. And what does this mean, right? What is the cure for longing? Well, the cure for longing, being the longing, means you have to sit with that feeling inside the body and let it process, let it really make its way through without letting it land on a person, an object, an idea, wherever it wants to land, where you can see it outside. And most people are not that connected to their bodies. So this is a little bit difficult, but that's his prescription, as is exactly what other mystical writers say. Now, withdrawal is brutal, or can be brutal, right? We devalue yesterday's savior just to rip off that energy, to get it off the hook. It's ugly, but it's natural. This is why, by the way, some of us, when you have a relationship and it suddenly stops to work, we almost become very aggressively against it. It's a way that we're ripping off that projection. So how do you do it? The task, she says, is to connect eros and logos, to relate and to differentiate. Eros is relationship, differentiation belongs to logos. You build an alchemical vessel strong enough to hold that heat, and that will allow you to recollect, and you trace the arrow back to the archer. You see the shadow in the mirror, and find another inner image that belongs to you, that does not belong to the outer world. And in that moment, you cease to become possessed. That's just a very short summary. It's a great book. Highly recommend it. Read it.